Ask yourself. I mean, go through your life, right? And just think about the everyday things that you do and why is it so stressful, and what's happening in your life that's making it so stressful, and what can you do to make it simple? Simplicity. I'm sitting here, I'm angry, I'm upset. The person you're hanging around is making you feel that way. Their energy is affecting you. Cut them off. Remove them. I removed them. I feel better now. Oh, I feel so much better now. I'm not agitated. I'm not angry. I'm not letting this person have such an impact on my life. That was the solution. It's simple. Sometimes we don't want to hear the solution. Sometimes we know the solution and we would rather go around this whole loop around of a circle to get to the destination. And sometimes, most of the time, it never solves the problem. Some of that stuff's been there for years. Like, there's a lot of issues that we think, oh, it's been 2 years. It's not bothering me anymore. It's bothering you. And then I get on here and I'm trying to be so real all the time. Oh, I'm in the realest way. This is in the realest way. But is it in the realest way? If everything in your life is fake. Welcome back to In the Realest Way Podcast by Marqes Smith, where we talk about so many topics in the realest way. On this podcast episode titled Simple But Better, I'm going to discuss the many life experiences, the many things I've gone through in my life that have taught me that sometimes doing too much isn't what you should be doing, okay? It is so important that we realize the differences that we go through and how sometimes we're exerting more effort in trying to become something that we really are forcing ourselves to be. When I first started, I looked at B. Simone and Megan Ashley and their podcast, the Know For Sure podcast. I looked at so many podcasters and I was like, I want what they have. I need to look exactly like them. I obsessed over everything being perfect. And I would continue and continue and continue to do it over and over and over the same way. And it wasn't working. I tried to make everything perfect. I tried to do everything. I mean, just like them. But it didn't work. And somebody told me recently that when they looked back at my old podcast, they were looking back and they seen how much it has changed. And I was like, yeah, and it comes with experience, but it wasn't just the experience part. It was the fact that I allowed it to become simple. I used to be trying to have, oh my goodness. I remember when I first started, I had like, oh, I need to have the flowers and all this, and this needs to be in the background and all kinds of things. It had to be perfect and it had to have the same exact theme as these successful podcasters. And the more I continued to do it, yes, it was experience, but it also came with the fact that I don't need to have all this extra stuff in my life. I don't need to have all this extra stuff in my podcast. Sometimes we clutter and we confuse ourselves, Oh, I'm doing this and that and this and that, and I'm doing so much in my life. We don't understand how complicated we can make it. We don't have to do so much all the time. We don't have to, it's not the fact of doing so much. You don't have to invest yourself into, people or places that no longer, serve you or, are directed into a place of benefiting you and is mutual. Sometimes we get so interested in like putting our energy in everything else that we don't realize that it comes from us. And like anything with energy related, the source, it can sometimes be drained. It can sometimes, not be at its best because we're allowing our energy and we're allowing these situations to become something more than what it needs to. Once I stopped doing all that extraness, you see how plain this is? It's just a wall. I'm just sitting by a wall talking. I'm not saying I can't get to the point to where I have all these different things going on in my podcast, but I'm saying right now what is needed is just me sitting here and talking. I get so invested in the background, I can't even make the podcast good. I get so obsessed with these different things going on in my life that I can't focus on the actual task. Okay? You're supposed to be going to the gym. You over here buying, gym outfits and cute little water bottles and, equipment that you can use in the gym. You're not even going to the gym. You're not even working out. You done spent 5 weeks looking at shopping, trying to find, the best things to go to the gym with. You trying to find the perfect gym to go to and all these different things that when it's time to go to the gym, you don't go. It's time to put in the effort. You don't do it because you invested so much time in preparing for something that you should have just did. I should have just sat down. There was numerous times when the podcast didn't go right. The audio was messed up or the visual, the recording was messed up because I was so invested in making it look all pretty, making everything look perfect. And that was when it looked the worst. My quality was bad. Everything was all over the place. I didn't articulate myself good. I invested so much time into the wrong things. Simple but better. It was one point where everybody, I talked before about my relationships and everything and how shit gets complicated. It gets complicated. And I have my own, I guess, insecurities that I'm constantly, dealing with and, trying to handle my own stuff before I, put it on to anybody. And I'm in a relationship. Once you allow other people in your business and they have an opinion about it, sometimes it can fog up what you really believe, and listening to people tell you about your life could be the worst thing that you could fucking do. The worst thing, right? They're not with you with this other person. They don't understand anything that's going on, right? But when you allow other people to have such an investment into your life and you start listening to them, you start making up things that aren't even true. Oh, this person is saying this or doing that. Oh, this is what it means. And actually, you just needed to ask the person. You just needed to have a conversation with the person. Like, that's what was needed. Instead of talking to this person or allowing them to have an opinion about your relationship, that's what you should have did. But you allowed somebody who doesn't know anything about the relationship to have an opinion. So many times. And I'm sitting here like, why is my relationship? Everything is fine, right? So I don't understand what's the issue. The problem is you're listening to other people. They don't know anything. They don't know about what's going on. Stop lying. Simple. If you, and this is something that happened when I was friends with somebody from a while ago. One thing that they did that I did not like. Okay. I really do not like this. If there's an issue, there's a problem, you come to me, right? If you always go to somebody else about an issue related to me, there will never be a solution because you're not talking to me about the problem, right? How are they going to help us? Simple. The solution is to come to me. The solution is to have a conversation instead of doing all this back and forth or listening to somebody else who isn't in this relationship, whether it's platonic, romantic, or work relationship. It's not about them. There's a connection between you two, and you're allowing somebody else who doesn't have anything to do with it to have such a impact on your life. That's so crazy to me. Like, it hit me. Like, the reason why my relationship was, I guess, sometimes difficult was the fact that I listened to somebody else and what they said. Oh, they said that you did this, and now I'm over here overthinking, and now I'm, placing my insecurities and my emotions that have nothing to do with you necessarily onto you and onto our relationship, when all I had to do was ask you a question. I made a podcast a while ago. What's the solution? What's the solution? Because I promise you, asking them about this in your relationship isn't going to solve the problem. Now, I'm not saying you can't have insight. You can ask people for opinions about your relationship, but please Develop it on your own. Have a sense of yourself and this person to come to them, to have a conversation with them. That is so important. Simple. It's really simple. Life is difficult. Everybody makes life difficult. I even make life difficult, but it's really simple. It's really simple. You want to be successful, you work for it. It's simple. You want to be healthy, do the things that it takes to become healthy. We make stuff so complicated. We do. We really, really do. You want to pass a test? Study. I mean, it's really simple. It's really simple. Like, why do we make things so complicated? I don't understand. I don't know why I do it sometimes, but now we can do better. Now we can be better. And we don't have to sit here and become so fixated on making things so complicated. Ask yourself, go through your life, right? And just think about the everyday things that you do and why is it so stressful, and what's happening in your life that's making it so stressful, and what can you do to make it simple? Simplicity. I'm sitting here, I'm angry, I'm upset. The person you're hanging around is making you feel that way. Their energy is affecting you. Cut them off, remove them. I removed them, I feel better now. Oh, I feel so much better now. I'm not agitated, I'm not angry. I'm not letting this person have such an impact on my life. That was the solution. It's simple. Sometimes we don't want to hear the solution. Sometimes we know the solution and we would rather go around this whole loop around of a circle to get to the destination. And sometimes, most of the time, it never solves the problem. You can care about people. You can love people from a distance. And I can do this podcast. I can continue doing the same thing I'm doing, but make it simple. I don't have to have trees and I have to have this behind me and all these different things to have an impact to make this podcast meaningful. It's going to be meaningful by the words that are coming out of my mouth, not by the pretty pictures in the flowers in the background. Okay? Now, I don't want to keep going on a tangent and saying the same things over and over and over, right? I love the fact that I've made this podcast simple. And before, you can look at the podcast. I used to be so obsessed with making the podcast such a certain length. 40 minutes, 30 minutes, that's what it needs to be. If it's higher, it's better. I can make a part 1, part 2. That's perfect. Now, the last podcast I made, it was 12 minutes or 13 minutes. I was okay with that. Why? Because I said what I needed to say, and it was the best podcast I ever created. The best podcast episode. And the reels I made for that podcast did better than any other reel I did before. Why? Because I allowed myself to be invested in what I was truly doing. This is a podcast, okay? This isn't a vlog. This is a podcast. What is the solution? The solution is to talk about the things I need to talk about and focus on podcasting, okay? This is a podcast. What's going on in your life? What's becoming so complicated that can easily be solved? We place so much energy onto things that we don't realize how simple they could be, how simple it could be. I hope what I said, went through, and I didn't go on a tangent about, just unnecessary things, but I don't know. I just hope what I said had some kind of impact and resonated with somebody. So I'm about to close this podcast out. My life, girl, it's been going. It's been moving. Life is going to continue to keep going. It's going to move and move and move and move. Oh my goodness. But like I say at the end of every podcast episode, I give thanks to the utmost, to the highest power, God. I'm thankful for my friends and my family. I am truly, truly grateful. This is NTheRealestWay Podcast. Out. Some people, I know you're not a hillbilly. I know you're not a hillbilly.